Hey
Hi.
guys!
Hi.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Oh, this is
Hey,
so cool.
great. How are y'all?
Pretty good. It's almost Friday, so not too bad.
Yes, so good to see you guys. Have you ever done a live with another couple before?
I have not. We haven't. You're our first.
First time for everything.
Yes, I was just gonna say that.
And you
Awesome.
start with the best. You got to start with the best. So
Yeah.
Exactly. As you
That's
know what?
awesome.
Let's.
Strong.
I know it's gonna be a tough act to follow up, but we're so excited to have this time with you guys.
Yes, so are we. We're excited.
Yeah.
This is a topic very close to our hearts.
yeah,
So.
thanks so much for having us. We appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to get to know you guys. We've been hearing a lot of great things about you, so this is really exciting.
Well, we
We
think very well.
Yes.
we were just talking about, well, when we were discussing the topic, I was like, man, honestly, the more we think about it, the more we have to say about it, because you don't necessarily think that you're doing it all the time. Like, hey, being intentional about it as often as you are, but the more you think about it, you're like, actually, we are pretty intentional about this. I just never really considered it as like a topic, but I'm super excited to get into this with you guys. And I know we were going to wait for just a few more people to hop on, but we can go ahead and get started if you guys want. So for anyone who doesn't know you guys, can you guys tell us a little bit about like who you guys are and what your kind of mission is, and just a little bit about you two?
Yeah, absolutely. You want me to go or you want to go?
Doesn't matter.
All right. So we are the Caps family. Well, half of the Caps family. I'm Keith, and this is Hannah. We have two little boys, crazy little boys, 5 and 2. And hopefully they stay in their beds for the duration. So
If not, it'll just be some extra fun, right?
that's it.
We went live on our account yesterday, and one of them decided to pop in.
Yeah.
So.
Perfect.
It could happen. It could happen. So, but yeah, we've been married for 10 years now, or almost 10 years. September, yeah, will be 10 years. And man,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's
It's
yesterday.
It does.
Um,
Seems like forever, and it seems like all at once.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, 10 years. Wow. We're gonna have to plan something big, but honestly,
It's looming already. It's looming.
we'll sit down at a restaurant. That's it. 10 years.
Right.
What a world. But honestly, guys, like the first 5 years of our marriage, we really didn't do a very good job of intentionally making our marriage a priority or our family. And, you know, learning some of the lessons that we've learned, that's kind of led us to what our mission is now. And that's to help others live every day for what matters most, to really make our priorities a part of our everyday life and live those out, and really keep those in check. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of what our mission is.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so important. And I love that we get to kind of have this conversation with you guys and kind of ask you guys questions, because although we've been together a long time, Hannah was telling me a little bit about how you guys got married, I think about a year after of dating. And for Sam and I, we're coming from a different perspective, where we were dating for many years and then have only been married for a year and a half. So I think it's going to be like a really cool perspective to hear from you two, and just the lessons, maybe things that you've obviously just been married longer too. So we're just so excited to learn from you guys and exchange in conversation. And this is going to be great.
Yeah, awesome. We're excited.
Cool. So yeah, so the topic of today's discussion, for all those who are watching, we're going to be going into how to safeguard your marriage or your relationship, and what that really means. So could you guys maybe talk to us about what it means to safeguard your marriage and why it's important for you guys?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
No.
Whoever wants to go first.
No, you go.
It's honestly, it's just what was the question again?
What does it mean to safeguard your marriage, and why is it important?
Yeah, what does it mean to safeguard and why is it important?
Go ahead with your
Yeah.
illustration. because I know
So
you have one.
yeah, I'm all about illustrations. One of the things that we've been doing the last couple of weeks that's brand new for us is gardening. And you're like, what does this have to do with safeguarding? But like, I've done tons and tons of research, because literally I don't know anything about gardening. And one of the things that I've read is that you have to be thinking about when you're planning, when you're investing, when you're putting things in the ground, you have to be thinking about the outside factors that might affect it, right? And one of those, is you have the weather, you've got different things, and you have things that are on the outside. Sometimes, depending on what you're planning, you need to put up a fence around it. You need to do things to try to keep the good things in and the bad things out. And it requires a level of intentionality and being proactive. And I think, for us, that's kind of what safeguarding means. It's being intentional and thinking about how do we protect this very, very sacred bond that we have.
I mean, and it really
So well
goes
said.
to intentionality. Is you can't, and that was really like the first 5 years of our marriage when he was talking about we weren't intentional, and it was like we were just doing the best that we could, and we were just living life how it was. But because of that, it went away.
Yeah.
And so the second half, we're all like, okay, we don't want to be like that, and so we need to go in a different direction. Like something has to happen. And so it is that whole intentionality, like literally in the everyday, because the everyday adds up to the big picture.
Yeah. I would say that we were definitely, especially the first half of our marriage, just trying to survive. We were just reacting to life and stress and things that happened, and we had our guards down and just letting whatever happened happen and trying to make it. And there's a big difference in living to survive and actually thriving. And safeguarding is a very, very important part of the journey to thriving in your marriage.
Absolutely. That is amazing. So well said, guys.
Definitely well said. I've actually heard that analogy before of it being like a garden, because it's exactly that. People tend to have this mindset where it's just like love is going to conquer all and it's not going to take work on the front end, but you do have to take care of like the external elements and weeds even within the soil that you have right there. So I love that you brought that up. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So sorry, guys. I just want to make sure that people can see us because someone mentioned that the live went black and that they can't see us. Okay, they can see us. Perfect. Okay, wonderful. That was amazing. So well put. I think that is a really great image and kind of metaphor to really what it takes. And I think that's why I was mentioning earlier too, like even for anyone who's in a who's maybe in a relationship or wants to understand what it takes to be in a committed long-term relationship and marriage, like these are the things that we need to talk about even before getting into marriage, hopefully, right? And that's okay that, maybe your journey is your journey. So even though the first 5 years of your marriage looked a certain way, it's now equipped you to be able to teach on this and talk about this and hopefully impact people's lives through what you learned. And so I think that's so amazing that you guys are using that to kind of fuel the purpose and the mission that you guys have on your heart. That's really cool.
Yeah, and we love that you guys are doing what you do, because honestly, when we got married, we didn't have a lot of people speaking into our marriage, into our lives, and that's a big contributing factor to kind of the way things were. And so, like you said, anytime that we can get folks speaking into other people's marriages and their lives, is absolutely helpful. So thank you guys for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
I mean, thank you guys for coming on. I think like having good examples is so important, because I feel like that's why nowadays, we have the lack of commitment that we do in other couples, because people realize that, the happy ending isn't just that easy. It does take a lot of work, and a lot of times we don't have those references to point to of like people maybe at our generation or our age that are taking that leap forward and willing to work on it. So yeah, and because of that, I think this is a good question, because I think sometimes we see this from people that are in different places and not people like around our current circumstances. So what are some, especially now with technology being as big as it is, and temptation being out there, distractions and everything. So what are some ways that you guys safeguard your marriage?
This could be a broad topic, so this is like no worries, like on whatever's on your heart to share.
We might be on this one for a little bit.
Good. We'll probably go back and forth.
There's been a lot of things that we have implemented in our marriage. Really, the number one is being in the Word. And if we are in the Word daily, and we actually did a live about this last night, and just talking about how how important that is, and not to get into the word just to check another box, but to actually get in to be transformed from it. And so something that we personally do is we have an accountability group that we are going through different things, and I have my girls and then he has guys, and so we can just dive deeper into it, and that has been a huge game changer.
Yeah. And you really you think about marriage and how much it takes, and I know you guys have said this before, and I love this, that it's not 50-50, it's 100-100. And I need to put her before myself, and she needs to put me before her. And that's not natural. That doesn't just, come up. And so being in the Word every day, it changes your perspective. It helps us to have the right outlook, to be able to even approach our days the right way, so that we are thinking about it, that we're hopefully eliminating some of those distractions where we might not be as intentional, if not. So, and
That's
I think
amazing.
I think the other thing is, and this has been huge, is we have a absolute open and honest policy. We don't keep secrets from each other at all. We know each other's passwords to everything. We have full access to each other's phone, computer, everything. And it's not a big deal. And that's not always the case. And I know that at any time she can pick up my phone and look through it, and I'm not gonna be like, what are you doing? Why are you looking at my phone?
Right.
We've already agreed that is okay, and that I can do the same for her. And that's not to say that I'm doing it because I don't trust you. It's just, again, one of those fences, those safeguards that are in place where we need to know what's going on in each other's world.
Yeah. No, that's such a good point. And I actually, when I was thinking about this topic, that one didn't come to mind, but now that you talk about it, that's always been, even before we were married, we were so open about that. We never really felt like there was a need to hide anything, because I think when you come to the table with that kind of skeptical mind of why would you want, it just kind of puts this weird energy and tension on what are you trying to hide? And maybe that's kind of what's going on in the back of someone's mind if they've maybe had trust issues in the back and in the past. But I think that one in itself is so powerful.
Definitely. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. It's like you attract the things that you think about constantly, and if you're always thinking of these negative thoughts or negative emotions, you're bound to bring that up even more.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really great.
Yeah, that's been really helpful for us. And the next thing is just setting clear boundaries with the opposite sex. It goes from anything from social media to texting to even physical. I know we're social distancing right now, but it's not always that way. And I try to think about this personally, as far as I try to avoid being alone in another room with another woman, and not to say that I'm thinking everybody's out to get me, but even if there's no temptation, nobody's above accusation. And so I don't want to be in a situation where, I'm even putting myself at risk of even someone thinking the wrong thing. So I'm not going to be alone with the opposite sex. I'm not friends with, exes on social media. It's just, I'm not going to do that. I try to avoid texting with the opposite sex. Sometimes it's unavoidable, if you're working or whatever.
Or something. And if we do have mutual friends, I'm thinking of one friend that we have now who is a really good friend of mine, but she's a school teacher, and we have a group text. And so that way we can see everything that's going on. There's no hiding, and you really cannot be cautious enough. Honestly, you can't be cautious enough.
And I think it's important to say here that, we have an enemy, but it's not our spouse. There is an enemy out there that wants to destroy marriages. And so we have to know that we're fighting a battle. Scripture says that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. that there's a spiritual aspect to even marriage. And so thinking about that and trying to be proactive is really, really important.
Absolutely.
Do we have time to talk about some more?
Please, yeah, go for it. We're good. We're good on time.
We got two more.
We have two more.
Please go for it. I'm loving it. You guys are doing great.
Most important, foundational, I would say.
The next one is really, you can't do any of this unless you're intentional, and you're intentional with your time. And that means like setting aside time to talk, maybe when the kids are down. Like that's one of the things that we do is once the kids are down, to get them into a routine, like that's our time to talk, catch up, to, hey, what's in your heart, what's on your, like just to have that open and honest conversation, but then also to talk about like date nights or fun plans or whatever. Like I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. I like to plan. He is a 7, so he loves adventure. But it's where we have to work together, and so I need to plan his fun. But it's in that.
You need to plan your fun. I love that.
Yeah, and because honestly, guys, we're busy. I mean, this is a weird season that we're in, but for the most part, life is busy. We have a lot of distractions, and it's not even that sometimes we intentionally distance ourselves from one another. But if you're not intentional, what can happen is you wake up one day and you're just roommates. Yeah. You have separate lives. You're kind of going through the motions of your responsibilities as a married couple, and you're not really connected. I mean, that's why you see a lot of couples, when their kids are out of the house, then they have to live with each other. They don't know how to live together because they've just been going through the motions of taking care of the kids and working and paying the bills.
And honestly, like we can say that because that was the first half of life. Like by the time that we got to year 5, it was like we looked at each other and we're like, what? How did we even get here? Honestly, like we became roommates, and that's where we knew that we needed that shift and we needed to be more intentional with the time and communication and all the different things. And then the big thing that has really helped with the intentional time is
and so the last thing is like-minded community. We cannot do this thing called marriage alone. We just can't. We weren't intended to do it alone, and we need people in our corner that value marriage like we do, that are going to be speaking into us. And not just that, but people that we can go to and say, hey, here's my junk, here's my baggage, and here's what I want to change, and I need you to hold me accountable. People that we give permission to speak into our lives. If they see me going down a path that is not honoring my wife or honoring God, or something where they say, hey, this is a red flag, they need to be able to speak that into my life, and I need to be able to take that and course correct if there's a safeguard that's not there. And so that is vitally important, having that community around you.
Oh, wow. That was so great. I just wanted to I could hear you guys continue talking all day about this stuff. We talk about this all the time, on all the things that you guys mentioned. Even especially community we always talk about how, you are a byproduct of the 5 people closest around you. So, I mean, we are influenced whether we like it or not. So we have to surround ourselves with people who care about their marriage and who, like you said, being able to go to maybe a particular mentor couple or, leaders that you can kind of confide in and go and grow with. And that's been a game changer for us too. Honestly, we came from, and part of the reason I think why it took us so long to get married is that a lot of our friends weren't married. So we didn't really have, like Sam mentioned in a previous live we did last week, we honestly didn't have a lot of examples of thriving marriages, or, our parents were in good, healthy marriages, but modern kind of times, it felt so separated in a way. And so we didn't really know what that looked like in our life. We didn't have those examples. And when we moved out here and really started our life on our own, we started to meet a lot more young married couples, especially through our church. And prior to that, we were already engaged, but we just felt so much more confident going into marriage, knowing that we were surrounded with people who had the same values, cared about the same things, that they had different things like marriage classes. And not necessarily like a repairing, but just like, this is important. You should invest time into it and make it a priority. So I think that's so spot on, everything you guys shared. And we were talking too just about some things that, little things that I think can go so unnoticed, but simple things, even in the sense of the way that you talk about, for example, like the way I talk about my husband Sam. I don't ever put him down, especially in front of other people. I'm not going to disrespect him. If, I know women, at least me, like I can definitely be a little bit snappy with my tone. Like my tone is definitely the thing that can affect him and make him feel disrespected. So I have to be very cognizant of that. But safeguarding my marriage, even in the way that I speak about him in front of people. And even if somebody was just, complaining about their relationship, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to come from a solution mindset. I'm never going to come from I just want to knock him down and, talk smack about him or something like that. But unfortunately, I see that a lot, just with married couples or any couples where they're just like, I think coming from this, they just want to get it off their chest, but then it becomes a disrespectful thing to each other. And I think that goes back to honoring one another and really having that high respect for your partner. And I think that's another good one too. Just thinking about, I just wanted to share that because just came to me right before we hopped on.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love that.
It's true. It's true though, because people will feed off of your energy and they'll feed off of what you say. So if they see you cut somebody down, then they're going to cut them down. And we've seen that time and time in different marriages as well. And it has not turned out very good. So, yes.
Yeah. And I think when you don't do that, it could really hurt that bond of trust between you, and so you have to safeguard that. You're exactly right. I love that.
And some of that, even thinking about our conversations, so I grew up in California. He grew up in North Carolina. Total opposite sides, different cultures, really.
Yeah.
And the way that I grew up was very much sarcastic, and it wasn't anything that like I meant by it, but it was just that's how it was. Where he's this good old Southern boy, and when I was very sarcastic, it took him.
It was rude to me,
yes.
disrespectful.
And I'm like, that's not at all how I meant it. But that goes back to that being intentional and that communication and talking with each other, because I didn't mean it that way, but that's how he took it. And it wasn't really until that was out in the open and we communicated about it that it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a really good point, and this is another one that's really, really big. So I think you have to be intentional about communicating when things do get to you or rub you the wrong way. I think there's something to be said for trying to overlook little things that, you don't have to make a big deal out of every little thing. But if there's something that really is said or is done that hurts or upsets you, you need to talk about that. You don't need to just let it fester. And, if it's something that you keep thinking about, now obviously there's timing and wisdom. I'm not going to try to talk to her when the kids are running crazy and we're trying to get dinner, but, I can say, hey, babe, let's talk later once the kids go down, in a way that's very respectful and understanding. I can say, hey, that thing, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And you have to do that. You have to communicate, because if not, it changes your perspective, and you got this thing that's just festering, and it could turn into something much, much bigger that could have been avoided if you just talked about it, in the moment or closely thereafter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree. I even think it's good to be bringing up the good things as well. Like what we do as well is like on a weekly basis, we kind of do like a weekly review. So, you're not having moments where you're just exploding in anger, frustration over something, and you're like talking about it after you've been able to think about it for a couple days and see like, was this really something that, I see as a problem long term? And if it is, then definitely bring it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too to bring up. Also, I think another part is not just, communication that goes both ways. So it's like not just communicating the things that bother you, but the things that you appreciate, or highlighting the positives in anything that you, especially if you know that it's something that they're maybe growing in or working on, that is something that they're, just trying to get better at.
Something important to them.
Yeah, like we always kind of are trying to remind ourselves of each, or just kind of like bring that to light when we have conversations and be like, I noticed that you did this week, and I noticed that it was something you were really intentional about, and I really appreciate that you made that effort. I know it's not in your nature to be this way, but you really want to grow in that area. So I think that's huge too. And I wanted to say something about a little bit of a, on the same topic, but a little bit of a different side, because I think that too, as we were talking about, there's a lot of things that we do together, and there can be a confusion that when you're in a relationship that you have to be attached by the hip, even though you share everything, you're super open. Has maybe, I would love to hear this from you guys, having your kind of, not independence, but having kind of your own thing that you go to, that your own time, has that been like critical for you guys to feed kind of like what you need, maybe your mind, your own personal, just yourself, I guess. I'm not sure if I'm wording that right, but does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, 100%. Like, and I think that goes back to our personalities are very different. And so the way that I relieve stress is completely different than the way that he relieves stress, or how I unwind my brain. Like the way that I look at fun, I'm like, ooh, let's make a checklist. And he's all like, let's go drive into a hurricane. And you think I'm kidding. But yeah, it's
Storm chaser?
Like, it's very different, but again, it goes back to that communication, like, hey, I need this. And that was something actually too that has helped us, is the words I need and I want is, I want this is, okay, I want it, but if I need it, like I need you to take out the trash or whatever, like it ranks it a little bit higher, and it makes it like, hey, this is bothering her,
right,
or whatever it is. But again, going back to that communication and re-talking about that, like, and not in the heat of a moment, and just kind of little things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think it is important to have those close friends, those people that you can go, I honestly, I enjoy going and like playing basketball with the guys, or, going fishing, or, doing things like that, that really is very helpful. And she goes out and hangs out with, girlfriends and things like that. I'll keep the boys while she does that, or she will keep the boys and I'll go. So yeah, we definitely do that. I think that as long as you keep it in the right priority, you know what I mean? Like, my friends know that she comes first, that my family comes first, but absolutely that I'm still going to try to make an effort to have that. And I have guys that I talk to every day, like she said, and she has girls that she talks to every day. And so, yeah, very helpful.
That's amazing. I have a question, actually. It wasn't something that I was anticipating asking you guys, but no, since you guys have kids, and like you guys were saying too, like sometimes marriages go on, for X amount of years, they have kids, and now the kids move out and they don't know how to live together. I think it's because they stopped prioritizing their marriage, and they didn't realize they didn't marry their kids, they married their spouse. Yeah. So how do you guys, or maybe what are some ways that you safeguard in that area? I know you mentioned having your time to communicate and talk, but what are some ways that maybe, is there something that comes to mind that can speak to that area, and how you really focus on your marriage and prioritizing that? I know, it's like faith, marriage, then kids, right? But it can oftentimes, like, your kids are like the second love of your life. You love them so much, and it's hard not to, like, it's a different kind of love that you have, but it can be easy to just get so sucked into that area in parenting. I'm assuming, because just from other people experiencing it, I can see that. So yeah, what are some maybe things you would say to somebody who is going through that, or even just to prepare someone like us who's wanting to start a family soon? Do you guys have anything you want to say? I just thought of it right now.
Good. I was trying to read its mind. I think, one, it's important to know that through different ages of kids, you're going to go through different seasons. So different season, like the season that we're in now looks different than newborn season. Because obviously we were trying to figure out how to keep this kid alive. Which I mean,
Step one.
but it looked different. And so that was kind of a little bit more of a priority. Like, we have to keep you alive. So with that being said, now that we're out of that survival sort of stage, season of life, it's going back to that intention. Like, I sound like a broken record, but it really goes back to that intentionality and going like, okay, now I'm implementing work hours. So I'm working this time and this time, and I know that we're going to have family time during this time, and then I know that we're gonna like have our time during this time, or let's plan those date nights, and some of those date nights literally look like going and getting Outback and bringing it back, putting the kids to bed, and eating it in our pajamas. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy, but it's being resourceful and just really being intentional.
Yeah, so that was definitely one of the things that I was thinking. You know, regardless of what we say our priorities are, our schedule says more, right? So we can say that our marriage is a priority, but if it's not scheduled, it's not a priority.
So there's a quote that says, "The battle of the heart lies between the pages of your calendar."
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Yeah, and so thinking about that in like different stages, we have young kids, but I'm thinking about, you know, as they get older, we're going to be getting involved with like extracurricular activities and sports and things like that. And, you know, my kids aren't going to play 3 sports all at once, you know.
I've seen that before. I don't know how people do it.
Yeah, because I'm not going to surrender all of my time to catering to them and neglect this, right? So yes, they're important. Yes, we're going to let them do some of those things, but we're going to make sure that we're intentional with our time. And also, they know that she's a priority. They know that I'm a priority to her. We say to them all the time, Mommy and Daddy are on the same team. Like, because they'll do things, even at 5 and 2, they'll do things to try to pit us against each other and to try to, you know, say, and we're like, no, you know, and they'll ask me and I'll say no, then they'll ask her, and her response every time is no. Your daddy said no.
I love that.
We're on the same team. And so they see that. They know that they are not going to be more important than our marriage.
And with that too, is if we do disagree, which is really not often, but if we do disagree on a certain whatever it is, like, we don't do it in front of them. And so they don't see Mommy and Daddy going back and forth or, you know, anything like that. Again, often, but it's again, it's one of those safeguards too, as far as we know what kind of home that we want to create, and we want a house that is loving, and because ultimately they, and it's scary, they will implement everything that we do. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, our 5-year-old will say stuff, and I'm like, don't say that. Where'd you get that from? And he looks at me and he's like, you? And I'm like, I don't say that. And then I start thinking, I'm like, oh my goodness, I do. And so I'm like, okay, so I have to think about, but just different things like that it's like you learn very quickly, especially when they can talk and when they can act. And even with a 2-year-old, he doesn't really talk, but he can mimic stuff, and he's
totally
the charade. But it's just being intentional. Sorry, I got on.
Yeah, and no, I think it's like it's intentional with the time, and then intentional with just how we treat each other. It's a regular occurrence for us to dance in the kitchen in front of them, you know, or to you know, to give her a big hug, and they want to come up and get in between, and we're like, no, this is Mommy Daddy time. Like, we'll give you a hug in a minute, but like, we love each other. Like, we're not afraid to let them see us, you know, kiss each other and to be affectionate.
Love that, yeah.
Because we want them to know that we love each other and that we prioritize our marriage. And
we want them to see that, because even though it makes me want to cry thinking about it, one day they're going to get married. And I want them to have an example of a good, healthy, loving marriage where they can go and say, hey, mom and dad, you know, I want to be like you guys. And so really, and that starts right now when they're 5 and 2. Like,
Totally.
That's great for them to have an example when they can see, even when there is conflict, but to also see the resolution of that conflict too. Because a lot of times couples tend to do that behind closed doors, but to do that right in front of them just gives more of an example of, this is exactly what I want. I want what my parents had.
Absolutely. I wanted to highlight something that the Allen Collective said. They said, we let our kids see us work through disagreements, not to be confused with fighting, because we want our kids to see what a productive and respectful conversation looks like. I think that's such a good point. And so it speaks to what you guys are saying, and it also speaks to what you were saying with, you know, allowing them to see what a healthy resolution looks like. So it's healthy to say, hey, I'm sorry, you know, I'm sorry that you saw that, or I'm sorry, you know, in front of each other, like, I'm sorry I spoke that way to you, or I'm sorry that I raised my voice at you, I'm sorry that I made you feel this way, because they're watching and they're little sponges just absorbing everything, and their personalities are being developed, and habits that they're going to keep with them forever are going to be developed. And so it's like there has to be a lot of intentionality. So it's amazing that you guys have been so thoughtful about the home that you want to create, the environment you want to create, and no one's perfect. So like you said, Hannah, like even if you slip up a couple of times, it's like just being honest and open with your children and having that relationship where it's like they also see affection and they see it's the multifaceted relationship and what that healthy relationship really looks like. And that's honestly why we started this. We want there to be more examples of healthy, thriving relationships and marriages, because we truly believe that the more people rise up in those areas, the better, I think the better world we can start to have, and we can start to be the change we want to see. And I think when kids grow up in a healthy home like that, they learn to, they can take what they've learned and apply it to so many areas of their life. And then we can hopefully lower the divorce rate with that, and just make a really big impact in the way that people have relationships. So that is really, really cool. I love what you guys said about that. And different things too.
To add on to that, something that we have done too that has helped, and this is more of like a parenting thing, but it fits, is in not just say sorry to each other, but say sorry to them.
Right.
And even though he's 5, like opening that door up to, hey, mommy was wrong, and yelling at me, I shouldn't have done that. Like, it really has softened his heart to be like, hey, it's okay, I can come to you. And there's that bonding and that safeness in that trust that
totally.
It just grows. So
yeah. I've been nannying for about 2 years now, and I watched 3 boys and a girl. So that was my full-time job as I was, we were building this on the side. And the boys are 2, actually he just turned 3. So 3, 6, and 8, and then there's a almost 2-year-old girl. So I know how the boys can be, but that's a really big aspect of my job, because I'm not perfect, and there's times where I slip up, or maybe I say something that makes them get like, maybe they start crying because they're like, oh, I thought you were upset at me. I don't ever yell or anything like that, but I always get down to their level and let them know that I'm sorry, that I made a mistake, and I ask for forgiveness. I treat them like adults that are going through childhood, not just little kids. So I think you're teaching them everything they're going to need to know. So cool that we're getting into this. I know it wasn't originally part of it, but I think it's important. Yeah, so awesome. And so I know we're running off a little bit extra time here, but to close off, we talked about a lot of different things. So what's maybe the people that are watching, what do you think is maybe a way to start applying these safeguards if maybe there's not so many safeguards in place already?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, kind of what we started with, and we would say, ask God to help you, and to really pray and ask for help and wisdom in that. But then practically sit down together, schedule a time where you guys can sit down together and talk about what you want those boundaries to be, what you want the safeguards to be. And maybe it's not even just one conversation, maybe it's multiple conversations. but put some intentionality into it and set those clear expectations. Make sure you're both on the same page. That way you kind of are both working towards the same goal.
Absolutely.
The last thing that I would say is find your 3 to 5, 2 a.m. friends. The ones that you can call at 2 a.m. no matter what, whatever happens. That way you can be that they can speak into your life, and that they have that all access to, because that literally that was a big changer for us and growing our marriage. And because there's some things, it's just, yes, I want to talk to him about, but I need to, we process things different. And so we need those people who won't, again, going back to tearing people down, tearing yourself down, but that you can get pointed back to the truth and pointed back to what Christ says, and go, okay, no, you are wrong in this area, or no, think about that, like whatever it is. The people that can hold you accountable. And so.
Yeah, there's definitely, a lot to be said for having those. So as far as, if I could just say 2 things that you can practically do, put it on the schedule when you guys are going to sit down and talk about this, and then literally make a list. Pull out a piece of paper, number it 1 to 5, and write down those 5 people who you could call at 2 a.m., who you trust to hold you accountable, that you can be 100% honest with and authentic. And, when somebody challenged us to do that at first, I only had like 2. And I think you had like 2 or 3. Maybe I had 2. Maybe I only had 1.
And we looked at him and we're like, what's wrong with us?
And so, but it showed what we were missing. And so, but now, we have a longer list. And if you don't have that, if you don't have those people, really look at how can I be intentional in building those relationships. That way, you have that support system, that community.
Amazing. That was incredible, guys. Thank you so much. You guys added so much value, I know, to us, so I'm sure everyone who's watching this hopefully feels the same way. I thought this was incredible. You guys are amazing, and it was such a pleasure and joy and honor to learn from you, and just to hear your hearts. And I know that we're aligned in a lot of our principles and our values, but just to hear a different perspective and to hear a journey that is longer than ours it's so cool to just, see how God has worked through you guys, and just applaud you for 10 years of marriage. So amazing. Like, that's an incredible, and just to, hear even your story now of like how you guys overcame the hurdles in those first 5 years, and you guys didn't give up. I know not everyone, unfortunately, is willing to stick it out, and it's so cool because I'm sure you guys are going to have a very blessed, long life together with your family. So,
hey, thanks so much for having us. We love you guys. We appreciate it. And we're excited to see.
We'll have to have you guys on our live.
Yes, that would be so much fun.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll play some kind of game on the live or something.
Boy.
We're all
fun.
That fun stuff. So.
I love games.
Right on.
So cool.
Have a date night.
Okay, awesome. Well, we love you guys, and we hope you have a wonderful night. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here. We'll go ahead and just stay in touch, and we'd love to maybe do another date night. That'd be fun. So, right. And I guess this is it. I'm trying to figure out how to end this.
Okay. We don't want to say goodbye.
I know, right? It's like, you hang up.
No, you hang up.
That's
No,
right.
you hang up.